as she was just saying in the last video, she had just seen something outside the window.
Yes, I saw what appeared to be a human head and shoulders, that seemed to be coming up into the window. But what was strange is that it was a complete dark silhouette, that the moon was shining and bright outside. So if somebody was standing there, I should have seen a face. I should have been able to tell you what the person was wearing or anything.
Shape of his hairdo.
Yeah, well, he didn't appear to even have any hair. I mean, that's the really bizarre thing, because at this point I'm taking shooting position and I'm prepared that if whatever that is, comes through that window, I'm going to start firing. I'm not, going to wait for anything else to happen. So as I, preparing, getting like psyched up, ready to handle that, it appears to duck down. And it goes away. It doesn't come back up. I immediately crawl over to the window, trying to stay low in case it really was somebody there and they were just, peeking in the window, see where everybody was or something. And I didn't see anybody. I saw the tree outside. I saw the moonlight. Nothing. Nothing out of place. No shadows, no running, no anything, Now, these are the best and the dumbest burglars ever in the history of robbery, because they're elusive enough to not be seen, yet they're dumb enough to be seen. At the same time, you know what I'm saying
here? Not
very
subtle.
Yeah, not subtle. They're seem to be coming right up as if they plan to come in or something, but then never do. So after this point, and needless to say, I have adrenaline pumping through my system and very afraid, and eventually I don't see anything else and I don't hear anything else. And the sun's starting to come up. I noticed that this has been going on long enough that the sun is coming up, and this is fall, November. So this has been going on all night. And the really scary part is, after the sun's coming up, I start saying to both of them, Mom, brother, what kind of robbers stay outside your house all night? Where are they? Where did they must have left. If anybody, if any physical people were there at all, they have left. They have fled. I was like, the neighbors are up. I could see people starting to leave for work and stuff. It's just impossible that somebody committing a crime like that would do it in broad daylight with the traffic and neighbors. This was not an isolated community. This had neighbors on each side across the street. So it's like 3 people directly that could have seen something or would have seen something. And I swear, my brother keeps saying, that's when he said he saw a moss man, a guy in a ghillie suit. If you know what that is, that's like what them sniper guys wear to blend in. And I was just trying to snap some sense into him, because I'm like, what are you saying? You're saying there's what? There's armed men in the trees now?
I'm wondering about that too. He's saying that he sees a guy in a ghillie suit.
A ghillie suit, yeah.
What is he actually seeing?
Yeah, what is he seeing?
That's how he's rationalizing it.
I said, point to the tree he's in. I was like, show me, like you're going to show me where some, how we do in the woods. I'm going to show me where something you're seeing is, so I can track what it is, and he pointed out the tree, and there's a wide limb and everything where somebody could conceivably get up there, but there's nobody there. I can tell you, there's no one there. And that's terrifying. And then my mother, when I go to the living room to tell her, Mom, Cody's really off his rocker now, we're going to have to do something. She's looking out the window, shotgun in hand, saying she sees him, a person, a hooded person, behind her car. It's broad daylight now. It's at least, almost 7 something in the morning, at least, if not later. And I'm like, Mom, there's nobody there. There's no one there. And I regret that these were the last words I spoke to my mother. And, Jesus forgives me, I'm sure. I've been very sorry for it every day since, but I told her, this is BS. No one's there. This is crazy, and I'm done. And I went into her room. I took the phone, and I began calling T over and over and over again. And I
Now, maybe we should
kick it over to you there so you can.
Basically, while that was going on that night, I had been here for a previous, it was a night or two before that,
Incident.
where he was positive again. This was going on, and it got to where she called me. I came over, so I'm in the house, and he's very keen that something's going on, and I see nothing. I'm in here in the dark with you. Now, I would also like to say this: I do not want to see spirits. That's well ingrained in me from, I guess, my original sort of Christian upbringing. Despite other spiritual roads I may have taken, I don't want to see that stuff. And honestly, outside of that one incident and my feelings about the house and that one incident where we blatantly saw one of these things, I could have just said this was madness, but I really start to understand that no, it wasn't. This was very weird. I did know that had already talked about the fact that they were seeing stuff, and it was in my mind. I did not want to be in that house. I didn't want to be on that house in the best of days, but under these circumstances, it was bad. And I was after that night, I tried to get her to come and just not go back over there. But of course, she was concerned about them and worried what was going on, trying to get down to the bottom of this, and I was getting mad about this. I didn't want her over there no more. And so the night she's describing, she was there. I had, from the night before, I'd come home and she was supposed to call me that day. I was going to come get her. And then when she did call me, she was saying, no, I'm going to stay and try to help out. And I got mad. I said, no, you're not. This is, I don't care what's going on over there. It's bad. I got terrible feelings about all this. And by the way, the whole, mental imagery of arrows, weapons, spears attacking the house, coming through the windows. It will not leave my mind. It is bugging me. I know for a fact something is going to happen. So what happens is after I talked to her on the phone, I'm really mad because you were supposed to leave there, and now you're not leaving there, and now you want to stay there, and I'm supposed to stay here, obviously because I was very mad, and if I went over there, I would have had to tell them something they weren't going to want to hear. But so I came. I said, "All right, fine. You're gonna stay over there. I'm gonna call up one of my friends. We're gonna hang out, and we're just gonna hang out, guy style." And I went and picked up my friend. We're hanging out, and we hadn't been hanging out. Really didn't do anything because I couldn't get my mind off of it. We hadn't even been here. I don't know, a couple of hours, and I found myself just staring at the wall and thinking about this and worrying about it and what was going on, and just having a full feeling that she was in mortal danger. And the physical reality weirdness of what was going on and all the other stuff that it started popping into my mind, all the weird stuff that's going on in that house, the weird stuff that we had already discussed might be working on his spirit. And so and if I could find him now, Jay would tell you the same thing. We were sitting there and I said, I got to take you home. He said, yeah. And I was like, why? He's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, but I know something's going to happen and I need to be ready. And that's what I told him. He said he's got an understanding of, such things. He's just like, all right. So I took him home, apologized for wasting his time. And I came back and it was already kind of late at that point. And I sat around here fuming for a while. I was so angry. I was wanting her to call me so that I could give her an earful and say, no, you're coming home right now. But I couldn't do that. I didn't feel like I could call that time, especially. It was already well late at night. But I was worried, terrified. I could not get it out of my mind. No, 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 something is wrong right now. And I remember I got mad, and I remember praying, and it wasn't the right way to do, but I was like, you know what, God, and all your angels, you're up there. You need to be over there right now. Right now. I'm not trying to be bad about it, but at that moment, I was kind of like, you're worth a damn. You get over there and you help her now. And then I fell asleep. Fell asleep, passed out on the bed, and that was 3 in the morning by that time. I've been sitting around worrying about this most of the night. But then, even though I'd been up most of the night, and I passed out, around 3 o'clock, I wake up at 6 a.m. awake, fully awake for the day. And the first thing I do is look over at back in the day, the caller ID, and there's one call after another call after another call after another call after another call from her. And I thought, oh my God, what's happened? I immediately call her. She starts telling me everything that's going on. It's like the worst version of some of these things that have been going on. And while she's in the middle of still trying to tell me this, I was like, just hang up the phone. I'll be there in a minute. I don't care what happened. I'm just glad you're ready to get the hell out of there. No, just, okay, I'll listen to everything you got to say, but stop talking right now. I'm leaving the house right now. And I got out of the car and I hauled my butt over there. And when I got there, at that time, of course, nothing too much happened except for that night of craziness that I hadn't been there for. Her mom was asleep and her brother was trying to go to sleep, and uh, you know, I just let you.
Yeah. I still feel horrible about that because it was very odd for us to fight anyway, and then I had no good explanation other than I felt family obligation, obviously, that I wanted to protect my family, and they had called my loyalty into question, which, without knowing me personally, that is a big deal to me. That's like the last straw, is to call on
I
my
mean, it was
loyalty.
really.
And it was
I'll just
unfair.
say, yeah, it was unfair. It was crappy, is the way I saw it, considering that we had always been, you know, I'll just say, try to be cool with her and try to be respectful and all that. And now suddenly, I mean, I always had questions about him, but now suddenly she's like, it's them versus us kind of situation.
Yes,
It's like
it became
challenging you. You
that.
must stay.
Yeah,
And I will not forget when I was there waiting for her to get her stuff. She went and talk to her mom, which she might talk about in a minute. And then she came out. I remember her brother, right before we were about to leave, saying, "You can stay if you want." And then she's like, "No, I gotta go." And we left. But you go. You go ahead.
yeah. So after I say that to my mother, and I just was done. I was done. I didn't care what was going on at this point. Uh, had been so terrified so many times, and I was ready to shoot a human being or whatever that was terrorizing my family, and that's a big deal. And then when you're putting me through this when I know nobody's there and you won't listen, and I can't get anybody to calm down or think straight, and I was done. And I remember I climbed into bed with the phone and I kept calling T over and over and over again. And I remember praying for the first time, really praying to Jesus specifically, to him saying, I know I'm a sinner. I know I'm a sinner, but if you can have T forgive me and answer the phone and come and get me, I will never come back here because I don't want anything to do with this anymore. I'd had enough. And like a miracle, had called me back. He had seen how many times I'd called. And like he said, I was trying to blah, 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 tell him the whole thing. And he's like, just hang up the phone. I'm coming. And I was never so glad to see somebody in my life. And I remember right before I left, Mom had laid down finally, and she had fell like right asleep. And I remember looking at her and going in there and saying, well, I should probably say I'm sorry and wake her up and say goodbye. And then I thought, no, I'll just let her sleep. Everybody's been through such a rough thing, and maybe I should let things cool down because, if she says something, I might say something, and around we'll go, and nobody needs that. I wanted to get the H word out of there. And, excuse me. And I was never so glad to be out of there. And
I remember as we were leaving there, and you're telling me about what had gone on, and at that point, and I know it'll sound rough, might sound cruel, but at that point, I was so absolutely resolute that not just there's a general danger of something going on with them, but that something is going to happen to them now, and I don't want you to be there for it. And I said that. I mean, that's why I said I don't want to sound like I'm just trying to be cruel, but the words I said were, "There, something is on them. They're circling the drain. I don't want you going with them. Something in this situation is trying to take you with them, and I ain't having it." And we went home, and that day and night was peaceful, and because we had stayed away from there. We turned off the phone. We didn't want nothing from nobody, and it was simple, peaceful. We watched movies. We ate. We fell asleep and just slept so well. I mean, it was such a peaceful day and night, and we both fell asleep. Usually, I would usually stay up later, but this night we were out of it. Had this wonderful, restful sleep, and then the next morning, we're not awake 10 minutes, just thinking about getting some coffee, and then we get a phone call, and the long and
a series of phone
calls, and
people saying, we've got something to tell you. You need to come to your grandmother's house, which was, a little drive for me, but, it's that important. And I had a feeling what they were going to say, because there's kind of like a doctor, if they want you to come in, they won't tell you over the phone. It must be bad.
No, I mean, it was so weird because it was so expected. It was still terrifying, but it was so expected.
And when I get to the doorstep of my grandma's house, and my mother's best friend happened to be there, to comfort me. And she told me that my mother and my brother had died. And once I spoke with the police, they said that he had shot her and then took his own life. And that's about as nice as I could put it.
That's really all that needs to be said about that.
Really needs to be said. And this is why I did this, was because I know this happens to other people. I know these dark forces can attack people from different directions and in different ways. And I absolutely believe people. And I want to say that since all this happened, I've been born again. I'm a Christian, and I'm happy to say it and proud to say it. My heart goes out to anybody experiencing anything like this, and my best advice is to look to Jesus Christ, for he has dominion in the heavens, earth, and below the earth. And he will always help you, and you need to call on him personally to aid you. And I believe Jesus saved me. Just like in the Bible, when he says of 100 lambs, if one goes astray, he will go fetch it and leave the 99. Just this time, he sent a man to fetch me, and I'm grateful for it to this day. And everybody around me that knows, I surely would have met a grisly end in that house should I have been there.
I cannot. And the thing is, even given all of the worldly bad that he had gotten himself into, and he abusing drugs and stuff, and that was really wrecking his mind and his spirit. And you know, I cannot say enough. There was no material component of this story that got me as wrought up as I was. Because I mean, yeah, I didn't like the way he acted a lot of times, and there was just a lot of mundane, real world things that were going on that were annoying. That you might say colored my vision of things, but no, 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 no. You don't. How do I say? I just all I can say is that the entire time, basically the entire time, from the time she moved in that house with him, I was on alert. I was having those bizarre unbidden thoughts is what I always call it. I mean, when you get those thoughts that come out of nowhere and don't seem to have anything to do with anything that's going on around you, and you can't get rid of them, that's something. It's something to be listened to. It's a little bit more than just intuition. I mean, between those types of things, I mean, all the just the fact I couldn't stand that house. I mean, there's all of that, but I can tell you that I knew it was something was going to happen that night, even though I didn't know. And I remember saying something about it to my friend later on. I was like, I did say that to you, didn't I? I said, I've got to take you home, and I don't know why, but I think I need to be ready for something. And what I need to be ready for was to go get her the instant she was ready to get out of there. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I know a lot of people want to ascribe the normal regular world things that can make this stuff happen. And yeah, that's a part of it. That's just a part of it. But if we're going to allow that you're talking about a demon, a genius spirit, yeah, they can manipulate the same sort of worldly things that a person could manipulate for another person. Only they can do it better, and they can do it from ways you can't imagine. I mean, it's kind of like why up here, for instance, all that they did in this case, which made it so much more crazy. But it's like, for instance, of if they want to spook you with a sound, do they need to manifest and rake their hands through the leaves, or do they just nudge a cat that's already out there? Well, I'm just saying they'll incorporate those things you call real and normal in life, and all the bad included. I mean, this bad stuff that is so rampant in society that just kind of like crushes the spirit out of people. That's part of it. That's not disconnected. You want to talk about drugs? You want to talk about destruction of the moral spirit of people and anything you want to say about the society or the regular world, well, guess what, man? That has a root somewhere. And it's not just with human beings. There's obvious to me. There's other things going on, and they can do the spooky stuff. They can get right in your face to terrify if that's part of their plan, but they can also just manipulate the mundane things.
Well, subtlety is one of their things they can use, because up till the end, much of this was subtle, you know, a little here, a little there, keep you on your toes. And it did escalate and it did go downhill really fast. And I do think, the occult history in my family has a lot to do with it. I think, maybe that's a separate talk for another time because it's such a big deal and I have so many thoughts about it. But
we can definitely get into it more because this we come out with this first because, well, I guess quite frankly, because it's big. I mean, it was blatant. There was no, well, it could have been a shadow of a swamp gas, and you wish it was that. When you see it that blatantly, you wish
I
you could.
wish this
It's
hadn't
and
hadn't
that's when you
happened.
can be kind of sure of yourself is whenever you want nothing more than to explain it away, and you can. Some parts of it cannot be explained away. So we wanted to get that out there. I mean, we absolutely have no reason to believe other than there was terrible involvement that led to their end in that way. And I mean, a lot of these stories end in I got saved and we got rid of the evil spirits and things are getting better. And I'm glad when that happens. But man, it does not always happen that way. And I mean, I've heard other people's stories, and I thought maybe I know surely we weren't the only ones, but recently I heard another fellow's story, and I'm not going to mention it because I don't know if he would want that or not, but it was equal. It was equal. Lives were lost out of this, and it wasn't just. human beings acting like fools. So that said, I mean that's still even that I'd call the nutshell version. And I'd like to say, well, thanks for listening. And we're gonna that's the big thing. There are other little things. There's lots and lots of little things that we're gonna bring up here and there. You got anything you wanted to say there?
I just wanted to say thank you for listening to me, and this has been a burden I've carried for more than 10 years, and I'm just glad to reach out to anybody that's having a similar problem or anything of that nature to know that you're not crazy. You know, you have a voice, and we'd love to hear anything you have to tell us, any strange stories or even second, third hand things, stories great and small,
Yeah, it's all pieces of the puzzle, you know.
and we're all figuring this out together, we're all trying to figure these things out together. But I just wanted to come forward with my own thing first, just to let everybody know I'm absolutely a believer, and I would never laugh or scoff at anyone that wanted to share their story. And to just thank you all very much for listening and letting me share.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm just gonna say if you're inclined to want to share a story or at least bring it up as a topic, you can send that to unocculted at gmail.com. As always, I like to say play fair, but if you've got a real story, then we'd be happy to look at it. I mean, if it kind of fits under the parabola, I kind of hesitate to use that term. It sounds a little certain way, but I mean, if it seems like if it fits, if it feels like a puzzle piece that fits in, we'll definitely read that story out on here, and then who knows, down the road we may be able to actually have some people talk on the phone or take it to that level. But for now, that's it. That's our big one, and we're gonna come back with some little ones and some other people's little ones, and also just some general weirdness that I find interesting that I'd like to bounce off some other people. So again, thank you very much. This is Unocculted. Good night.